What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Drew, and this is where I discuss higher education as a whole, such as current events or how to navigate the college experience and everything in between. So if this topic is for you, then make sure you hit that subscribe button. And in today's video, I'm going to touch on the topic of student loans. Now, I watched a documentary the other day, and it's called The Real Cost. And I found this on Canopy, which you should have access to through your local library. You may be able to find it there. Otherwise, you should be able to find it on Tubi, and I think it's also available on Amazon Prime. So it is accessible, and I definitely think you should watch it, because what it does is it talks about how student loans have gotten out of control and have begun to cripple a lot of Americans today and are impacting our country's future. Now, the documentary goes through a lot of the history of student loans, how they came to be and how they grew, and how the cost of attendance for higher education also grew with that. And the key problem, and that is with increased federal aid, that now equates to an increased cost of attendance because it's now becoming sort of a business for higher education, where institutions are able to pull in this federal aid as revenue. And they did point out in this documentary that, for example, with for-profit institutions, 90% of their revenue comes from federal aid. And that's alarming, because what is also happening is that we as students, we don't know how to navigate the FAFSA. We don't know how to navigate federal aid as it relates to pursuing a college degree. And a lot of this stems from financial literacy. It's not part of the core curriculum in K through 12. We don't teach this. So we don't even know how to manage our own finances, and yet we are being pressured to go into college because we are saying you must go to college if you want to get a well-paying job. And in order to go to college, you must accept loans. And it doesn't matter if you don't understand it, you just have to accept them anyway and just kind of deal with what happens after that. So we are sort of pressured into taking these loans in pursuit of a better life, and then we are laden with the debt after graduation. And this is assuming that we as students will even be able to graduate in the first place, because you also have to think about the number of students who take student loans, then they go to college for maybe a year or two and find that either it's not for them or something happens that forces them to leave, and they still have that debt. They still have those loans to pay off, and they don't have a degree to show for it. And so this is very, very alarming. And another thing that they pointed out in the documentary was really the American dream is getting a well-paying job, potentially starting a family, being able to own a home. But what is happening is students are graduating with all of this student debt. And if you can't pay off this debt, then you can't really afford to own a home. And so if you can't afford to own a home, now what does the American dream look like? And in this documentary, they interviewed a few older adults, or they were a few years removed from their college experience, which I thought was perfect, because it wasn't necessarily about their experience as students with the debt, but how it impacted their lives after, how they were trying to support families, how they were trying to pay off their homes, and what that meant for them in spite of still having this debt. And so they brought up, do we need to reevaluate what the American dream looks like? And there's also the talk of, in order to pay off debt, you may think, I need to find a high-paying job. And you could do that, but does that make you happy? And is that sustainable? Will forces within the workforce change that cause that high-paying job to either disappear or not be as high-paying as it once was? And so there are a lot of variables at play, and a lot of these things come to surface in The Real Cost, which I really appreciated. And it was very eye-opening because it gave me a lot to think about. And so if you are a regular on this channel, you know I'm an advocate for higher education, obviously. I support it, I believe in it. But if you are a regular, you also know that I don't believe that college is for everyone, and I don't believe that everyone should go to college. So when I think about this, and I think about this pressure that we are putting on today's youth to go to college, what does that mean? Well, for starters, it's going back to maybe college isn't for you, and that's okay. You don't have to go and you can find something else. And there's this increasing talk about a need in the trades. And if that's something that has always been interesting to you, then I think you should absolutely pursue that. But that's not to say that there's going to be a large need for plumbers and you can make six figures being a plumber. And if you don't really want to go and work with plumbing, should you really go be a plumber? Because that won't lead to happiness either. So there is a balance of, what do I want to pursue? Do I want to find a balance of something that pays enough where I'm able to make a living and makes me happy? Or do I just want to go for the high paying job and see what happens? So there are options with that. You can also go into the military. There are so many options without a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree that are perfect for you. And so I would argue, or not argue, but support finding a path for you and really looking into all of your options. Entertain all of those options and make sure you have a plan. Because I feel like if you don't have a plan, that's where you might start to spin and not really know what you're doing. And then you can start to waste time or make decisions that could have a negative impact on your life a few years down the road, like thinking you need to go to college and taking loans when really you never wanted to go to college in the first place. Now, if you are planning to go to college, or if you want to go to college, again, have a plan. What do you want to major in? And if you don't know, that's okay. I wouldn't necessarily push you into those majors that are going to lead to the high paying jobs. And so what I think of is, what is so common is software engineering. If you think that that is going to lead to a 6-figure salary and you don't like computers, don't do that. Things will change. You will find your way. So think about what you want to major in. But if you are just about to begin college, it's not as critical of a decision as you might think at that moment. Now, I do other videos where I talk about, at what point should you really start to think about taking the correct courses before it delays your graduation. So there's a lot that goes into that, and there are many other videos on this channel that you can check out. But I would say when you're thinking about going to college, at least start to think about what that plan is going to look like and what you hope to achieve after graduation that goes deeper than have a well-paying job. There will be many other environmental factors that could influence the decision in college and after college. The other things I would think about with the cost of attendance and tuition are things like the GI Bill or the Starbucks College Achievement Plan or any other sort of tuition repayment programs or tuition reduction programs that you can be eligible for or that you can take part in. I think that is probably one of the best advantages that you can have, especially if you are someone who does not have the advantage of having income to be able to pay regular tuition. Also, search far and wide for every type of scholarship that you can be eligible for as well. And also submit your FAFSA. Whether you think you will get aid or not, submit it anyway, because your institution may have extra aid available for students, but you have to have a FAFSA on file for you to be eligible to receive that aid. So many will think, well, I'm not eligible for anything, so I'm not going to submit a FAFSA. And without that on file, then there is no need that the institution is aware of on your end. So make sure you are doing that, whether you think you receive aid or not. And with the changes in FAFSA, whatever that is, you have no control over that. That is the government, so just have one on file. I would also look at community college as an option. Tuition is much lower. And in many cases, you only need a 2-year degree for some well-paying jobs. So consider that as part of your plan and the options that you're entertaining. And also, if you plan to go to a community college or a 2-year and ultimately want to transfer it to a university or a 4-year institution, make sure that you are very clear on the classes that you're taking at the 2-year that they will transfer over to the 4-year institution. And so this is where it's important to talk to your advisor where you are going to school to make sure that you are on the right track. The last thing that I was thinking about with this whole documentary and this whole issue of whether or not to go to college and whether or not to go into debt when going to college is we are so caught up in this idea that the degree is going to lead to a job and the job is going to lead to happiness. And I think that's where the real cost kind of destroys that and says there's a lot more to it than that. And what happens is when we're pressured to go to college, we think that we have to go to class and we have to pass the test, we have to get an A, and then we move on. but that doesn't make you ready for the workforce. That does not make you a capable future employee. And so no matter where you go or no matter what you're doing within any realm of education, whether that is trade school, a community college, or a 4-year university, make sure that you are getting the most out of your experience. So what I mean by that is, don't just go to class to do the assignments and to study to pass the test. Really dive into that content. What are you learning and why? And why does that matter to the world? Will that matter to you once you graduate? And if you don't know, or if you don't think it matters, look at it from another perspective. You may need math, you may not need math, but it will make you a better thinker. Also, I will always advocate for getting involved in clubs and organizations or volunteering or doing a lot of things outside of class. Because if you do that with the intent to become a better person, that's when you learn how to communicate, to be a team player, to be a leader, to learn to think critically, to learn to solve problems, because these are the skills that employers want. They can find anyone with a degree, but if you don't have any of those skills, then how does that set you apart? And if you can't set yourself apart from the competition or carry those skills into the workplace, then how can you start to work towards an increased salary and ultimately a better way of life? So there's so many things that we constantly overlook of, I don't need to know this, I don't need to join this club, I don't need to volunteer, or I just need to take this job, or I just need to do this major. And we lose sight of our ultimate goal and how these decisions can build on bigger decisions and have impacts down the road. So those were just my thoughts from this documentary. I think you should go check it out yourself just to get a better information about what is going on, or at least how this problem came to be. And also, maybe there are solutions how we can get ourselves out of this as a country or as a society. I don't know. But it is a great watch, so make sure you check it out. I will try to link to it if I can find it in the description down below. Don't forget to hit the like button or comment if you found this video useful, or if you have your own thoughts on this wonderful student loan crisis that we're in. And with that, I will catch you in the next one.